Alright boys, we gotta talk about AMD. AMD stock is down about 50% from all-time highs. The sentiment around the stock is pretty weak, and there seems to be a lot of doubt and uncertainty regarding this company. But what if I told you these are precisely the times when you should be buying? Moments like these create the perfect opportunity for investors to make real gains. When there's fear, uncertainty, and doubt in the markets, this leads to less confidence from investors, which in turn creates a lack of demand. But when an investor is able to determine this discrepancy from demand versus actual valuation of the company, that's when real opportunity happens. Those are truly the times when the best investments are made. And now, while the sentiment is low and the fundamentals remain really strong, I believe AMD is one of those opportunities. So let me explain. The AMD share price has gotten beat down recently, mainly due to concerns from Nvidia competition, concerns over CPU oversupplies, and weaker than expected data center revenue. But a lot of analysts, myself included, think that the sell-off may be way overdone. Are all these fears and concerns really justified? So my goal is to answer this question in a really simple, clear, and comprehensive way for people looking to invest in AMD right now. So in this video, we're going to discuss how AMD makes money by looking at each segment, their performance and their outlook, AMD's position in the market, key financial metrics, both growth and risk factors to be able to determine a valuation for the company, and finally, my personal thoughts in the matter and how I'm going to be capitalizing on this opportunity. I promise you by the end of this video, you're going to have a really clear understanding of what AMD is and whether you should invest or not. So if you find any value in this video at all, I'd appreciate it if you hit the like. That would mean a lot to me. So let's dive in. Okay, now first, let's try to get a really clear understanding of what AMD is. Its core focus is designing high performance computing solutions, including CPUs and GPUs, and then catering that to a bunch of different markets. Don't worry, I'm going to explain this. So the company generates revenue from 4 main segments. So that's client computing, gaming, embedded systems, and data centers. Each of these plays a critical role in the company's growth. So I'm going to briefly touch on the first 3 and give some key metrics and future outlook. However, we will be focusing on the 4th component, which is data center, because that's going to be the single biggest and most important factor in the company's growth in the next couple of years. And this will have the most impact towards valuation. So the first segment, client computing, what does that mean? Basically, AMD provides processors for personal computers and laptops, competing strongly in the CPU market. So for 2024, they actually had $7.1 billion in revenue. That's 52% year over year from 2023. This is mainly due from strong demand for their CPUs in laptops and computers. And for the outlook, this is expected to continue growing with an overall 30% year-over-year revenue growth in 2025. So number 2, we have gaming. Basically, they provide their GPUs and console chips to some of the most popular gaming systems. In terms of 2024 performance, the total revenue in this segment was $2.6 billion, which is actually down 58% year-over-year. The outlook for this sector isn't great, as they continue to expect a softness in the gaming revenue. The third one is embedded systems. And embedded means basically where we see all of AMD's technology integrated into industrial equipment or automotive applications. For 2024, total revenue was $3.6 billion, which is actually down 33% year over year. And the outlook projections for this segment are not really that strong either. They actually expect a modest decline in 2025. Okay, so those last 2 segments definitely look a little weak, but we're going to be focusing on the 4th one, which is data center revenue. This is where they're seeing their most significant and explosive growth. So let's talk about why this is and why data center revenue is so crucial for them as a company. So what are data centers? Basically, think of them as a backbone for the AI revolution. Data centers are essentially a huge facility filled with powerful computers. They store, process, and analyze massive amounts of data. And companies like Amazon and Microsoft and Google just rely on these data centers to be able to run all their computational power that they need. So essentially, AMD designs and then sells these high performance chips to be able to power these massive data centers. So get this, for 2024, they saw a 94% year over year increase in data center revenue, totaling $12.6 billion. So they nearly doubled the revenue in data centers alone, and they're just getting started with this. In fact, for Q1 2025, they're anticipating $6.8 billion to $7.4 billion in revenue just in 1 quarter alone from data center revenue. Additionally, they have a brand new product for data centers coming out mid-2025. That's the next gen MI350 GPU, which is aimed to enhance AI performance. AMD CEO Lisa Su expects massive growth in the market, saying that the AI chip revenue could reach tens of billions of dollars annually in the next coming years. And she's put some pretty aggressive targets for growth. So basically, this is where you want to be looking at if you're looking to invest into AMD. This is their story for growth. And this is what investors are mainly going to be looking at. And personally, for my portfolio, that's one of the main narratives that I was looking to invest in. AMD really hit that criteria for me when I was looking into data centers. On top of that, they have a bunch of partnerships with Microsoft, Meta, and so many other companies that is only going to increase their demand. Okay, now let's take a quick look at their financials. So looking at a full year picture, they had $25.8 billion in revenue. That's 14% year over year growth. Their gross margins are also increasing, so they're at 49%. Their net income actually hit $1.6 billion in 2024, which is a 92% year over year growth. So far it's putting up really solid numbers. Now looking at their cash flow and balance sheet, the operating cash flow was at $3 billion, which is 83% year over year growth, and the free cash flow was $2.4 billion, which is 114% year over year growth. So they're seeing really rapid increase of their free cash flow. Additionally, they have $5.1 billion in cash and investments and $1.72 billion in debt. So they have very low debt, super healthy leverage. So in terms of their financial health as a company, they're doing super solid. They have really strong revenue growth. Their gross margins are expanding, meaning that they're just making more bang for their buck. Their operating cash flows are also increasing rapidly, and they have very low debt and overall strong liquidity. Now, with all that being said, let's look at some valuation models to determine what price we should be paying for this stock. So I ran some valuation analysis via ChatGPT for AMD, and this is what they're saying. So looking at some price to earnings and price to sales and EBITDA based valuation models, we can see that AMD's valuation from a numerical standpoint alone is anywhere from $124 to $186. This suggests an undervaluation range of 10 to 60%. So AMD's PE ratio does sit at 112.74, which is pretty high. However, their forward PE is 18.16 because you also have to remember this is a high growth company. So you can't really just value it with PE alone. So when it comes to forward PEs, AMD's is actually pretty reasonable given the growth that they're expected to have. Just as a comparison, Nvidia does sit at 35.42x forward PE. Now, of course, Nvidia absolutely dominates 90% of the AI chip market. However, AMD is the second best, and it's still expected to increase revenues at a rapid pace. Okay, now let's try to summarize the growth prospects that we've been talking about. AI demand is growing insanely rapidly, and AMD is definitely trying to capitalize on this, as seen by their data center revenue. They're posting really strong guidance for 2025, with Q1 alone at $7.1 billion in revenue. Their partnerships are going to continue to expand, and finally, they have new products coming out that are going to compete with the likes of NVIDIA. With that being said, there are some risks associated with AMD. First of all, NVIDIA still dominates the AI chip market, and Intel is definitely trying to compete in here too. AMD definitely needs to push for more adoption of their chips over others. The other segments of their business, like gaming and embedded, are projected to stay weak, so if data centers really doesn't pop off as it should, then that's going to be a problem. From what I understand, NVIDIA is already sold out of a lot of their product. I think that demand is just going to overflow over from NVIDIA, and it's going to pass on over to AMD, which is also a great company providing data center AI chips. Okay, so finally, what are my personal thoughts on this and how am I going to capitalize on this opportunity? So for full disclosure, I did start a position in AMD. I have 15 shares at an average of $111 per share. So I do have a small position. I mean, it depends how you look at it. That might be small for some and large for others, but that really shouldn't matter because these positions should be according to your own portfolio size and risk. So it's definitely one of the smaller positions in my portfolio, but that's fine. I do plan to increase if we do go lower from here. So to sum up why I'm buying now, I think the risk is at a level that's acceptable for me. The upside potential is definitely there for me to start a position in AMD and maybe increase as it goes lower. I'd be happy to take those shares. I don't think that we will see such a large decline from here. I'm not saying it'll go quickly up and make tons of money, but I do think we're finding some common ground. Overall, I think the financials are really strong and really healthy, and I just think a lot of people are not giving the credit that it deserves. And I think it's quite funny the criticism that when people say it's not growing fast enough. Like if the revenue expectations are to increase by 93% and they do 92%, everyone starts freaking out. But they did increase their revenues by 92%. That's still a very large number. And I think the valuation right now is actually pretty reasonable compared to growth expectations. It's not like a lot of that has been priced into the stock. In stocks like Palantir, for example, that has been priced into oblivion. That company needs to perform perfectly to meet those expectations. As to where AMD has a little bit more room in that valuation to grow, and not a lot of that has been priced in yet. So overall, I do expect short-term volatility, but long-term growth. I'm definitely focusing on the bigger picture for this stock. I'm going to continue to monitor the performance as the quarters go along, but overall, I think we're going to see an amazing next couple of years as AI adoption continues to expand. And right now, the stock has suffered a lot due to lack of confidence by investors as it competes with NVIDIA. But I think it's going to surprise a lot of people how well this company is going to do in the next couple of years alone. And by the time that surprise comes around, it'll be too late for those who want to invest. To be able to capitalize on something like this, you have to get in before that happens. So personally, I started my position and I'm happy with that. I like the risk levels, and I'm excited to see where it goes from here. But yeah, definitely let me know your thoughts on AMD and if you're going to be adding this to your portfolio. And if you found any value in this video, please consider hitting the like and potentially subscribing. I'm definitely going to be doing more videos on the opportunities that I see in the market. But yeah, that's all. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one.